this. I know that we can fix our broken immigration system, secure the border, and create a real pathway to citizenship that aligns with our values. And we are going to stop Donald Trump's billion-a-day illegal war in Iran and the crushing gas and fertilizer prices. We are going to fight the corruption, whether it's in the White House or in the halls of Congress, because the grift has to stop.
Yay, the grift has to stop. What does it even mean to say that anymore? I mean, look at her. Look at this lady, Peggy Flanagan, so-called Native American, a Minnesotan who wears hijabs to pretend that she's a Muslim when she's actually a Catholic. She opens up the borders to Somalians and says that they're our neighbors and our friends, whilst they steal countless amounts of money from the very state that she's now trying to be in charge of, right? As a senator anyway. What a beautiful, impassioned speech she's just given about how all Republicans are evil and all Democrats are heroic. How very original. I particularly enjoyed the part where she said, I'm going to say it like she did, our values, right? That's what she said. Our values. Their values, but only their values. Democrats love to smugly claim that others said the quiet part out loud, as if that makes them clever or something, but they don't seem to realize their mask-off idiocy is the mother tongue of liberals, and liberals are a part of the Democrats. Their values, and no one else's, total control, complete domination, a democracy for Democrats, and a dictatorship over anyone who isn't a Democrat. That's their goal, and that's always been their goal, to replace the Constitution with feelings, and destroy the republic for which they will never stand. But ask yourself, who's in control? Is it foreigners? Women? Morbidly obese sexual degenerates? Take a look at who's cheering for her. Do they look like people who will ever hold power? First thing I noticed was a couple Muslim women, and likely the man of the house. A bunch of white people, always an absurd amount of white people trying to open the borders. Some freak in the background dressed up as Bizarro Superman. And Jesus wept. What even is that in the front row? Is that an anthropomorphic onion? And why is it wearing revealing clothing? Does it think Peggy's Senate primary victory speech is an appropriate place to dress in a low-cut top with spaghetti straps? Take a look, because that is a deranged white woman, the single most powerful force in America. Behold in despair. And her speech, embarrassing. More like a copy-paste taken straight from Blue Sky or Reddit than something a Senate candidate would write.
And no matter how hard they try to tear me down to buy this Senate seat...
Tear you down? Yeah, of course, because Republicans are the only ones who are corrupt and obsessed with money, not Democrats. They're incorruptible, especially not the Minnesotan Democrats, right? But who can focus on that when the crowd of slackjaws cheered after she praised them for being smart?
I know that you won't be fooled, because...
Yes, that's right. Clap and beg for your fish. Good seals. Look at how smart you are. Yes, you are. Good God, how dull can you be? But that's how it seems at first. However, if you continue to listen, their reactions and makeup, well, it seems like more of a paid audience. I mean, the boo at the end of Orange Man Bad, that's incredibly fake sounding.
We have a choice, and it's a simple one. Minnesota can send another Donald Trump yes sir senator to do his bidding.
Ooh, God, I haven't heard acting that bad since I watched Overwatch's esports live streams.
Or we can insist on change and send someone who will always put Minnesota first.
Insist, huh? You're gonna insist on change. We see, I think insisting is part of the problem. There's no argument, there's no debate, there's no conversations, it's just insistence. You insist that if a man were to freeze tomato sauce and stick it up his butt, that he's actually menstruating, and that that's actually the lining of his uterus leaking out of him. You insist that men can get pregnant, that they should go into the other gender's locker room because they are that gender, the other gender's bathroom because they are that gender. You insist that women are just as strong as men. You insist that all of these foreigners are incapable of committing crime, and that actually it's our own people, more specifically the white people, who are the ones who are the villains, and that we should have open borders, and so on and so forth. You always insist these things, and we're sick of it. Everyone's sick of your insistence. Maybe if you weren't constantly insisting everything, be it your pronoun or your skin color or your heritage, maybe then there wouldn't be such as much of a problem between the left and the right. But they insist on insisting, and they think it's a good thing. They cheer for it, even. But let's not forget that she thinks that they're doing this in favor of the Minnesotans. You guys are getting Minnesotans deaded for the sake of foreigners, just to remind everybody, not to mention all of the fraud and welfare. In fact, she even says in her TED Talk that white people have an incredibly high rate of achievements in Minnesota compared to everyone else.
And my family is the Wolf Clan. And the role of the Wolf Clan is to be the protectors of the community and to ensure that we've left no one behind, which is why I work for Children's Defense Fund. We've talked a lot about the achievement gap in Minnesota, and I'm sure you've all heard about it, that in Minnesota we have one of the largest achievement gaps between students of color, American Indian students, and white folks and white students. But it's something we hear a lot of talk about and not necessarily a lot of solutions around how do we start to close that gap.
So, sort of doesn't sound like she's putting Minnesota first. Sounds like she's selling Minnesotans for the sake of farming their votes, the votes of bleeding hearts and their subservient boyfriends.
And I know that there are thousands of independents and Republicans who agree with us, because I have met so many of you.
Thousands. How many people are in this country? It's 350 million? I mean, not in Minnesota, of course, but thousands. Sure is a lot of people. And the argument here is that they don't like Trump. But I don't like Trump either. I'd still never vote for a Democrat. Ever.
On the road. You've told me how you're disappointed in the direction that Trump is taking our country. And as my political hero, Paul Wellstone, once said, he said, I don't think politics has anything to do with left, right, or center. It has to do with doing right by people.
Nothing to do with left, right, or center. Yeah, right. That makes absolutely no sense, of course, which is why she'll make a great senator for the Democrats, and that was her political hero that she was quoting. That's her hero. Her hero is someone saying that left and right and center have nothing to do with politics. This is someone who's made their identity as a female and as a Native American part of politics, but apparently being left and right don't have anything to do with it. Well, you know what? Let's take a look at her achievements and see what she's worth. Taking a look at her history, we see she has degrees in Native American heritage and child psychology, showing that she's just as obsessed with identity politics as the rest of the Democrats, which we can see in the myriad of articles, quickly pointing to the outstanding possibility of having the planet's very first Native American congresswoman. Wow. 19th News even made an article out of that in and of itself. An independent, non-profit newsroom reporting on gender, politics, policy, and power, which has a newsletter that is very strangely bundling women together with, quote, LGBTQ plus people, close quote. And who's funding you to do those things, I wonder? What do they get out of it, I wonder? She's backed by Bernie oligarchy Sanders, so she's in favor to destroy capitalism. She's backed by Ilhan Leering Omar, so she's in favor to destroy borders. She's backed by Roe. I don't have anything succinct for him, but he's an Indian worth hundreds of millions who forewent assimilation to marry another Indian and for some reason ended up as a Democratic senator in California, which is on the other side of the planet from India, so you know he's up to no good. Kana. So you know that she's in the favor of, well, Okay, I don't really know what Ro Khanna wants. Probably money and legacy. I honestly get the vibe that he's just shallow, but he's still going to take a pound of flesh from the Constitution, as is the mandate of Democrats. Remember, Peggy, despite beating out a more conservative Democrat, said it wasn't about left and right in front of that podium. The same podium where she branded Republicans as omni-evil and foretold the utopia the Democrats would create, where she stated that she wanted bigger and bolder changes instead of nibbling at the edges. But she appears to be so far to the left that she hides against the blue wall in every single match of Mecha Chameleon. Unsurprisingly, she's not the only one to study the history of the oppressed, like Mamdani enduring Africana studies despite being an Indian who came to America as a small child. And here's the hag of the hour wearing a hijab whilst role-playing as a Muslim. And this was back during the siege on ICE in late 2005, where you can see, along with her pro-Somali commentary, that she really is nothing but another lighter in the crowd, virtue signaling just as dimly as her sycophantic voter base. But I always suspect anyone narcissistic enough to study their own race to have some unresolved mental health issues of their own, which reminds me, we shouldn't forget about her degree in child psychology. A leftist engaging in identity politics and also child psychology, and then they become a politician. You know, it's funny, this New York Times article says this is something we need to know about her. She served under Tim Starts Good Trouble Walz, one of many who insisted that it was the duty of civilians to fight against ICE. But notably, she was also his mentor. According to the Times, she trained liberals who were considering running for office in the early 2000s. People whom exist in politics today, people whom she has connections with, people who owe her their allegiance. The Democrats and media, they're acting like Peggy Flanagan is a freshly forged blade, the cutting edge of Democrats, but if I'm reading this right, it seems to me like she's an old knife, one rusted with the blood of Lady Liberty, whose heels she's been hacking away at for decades. She was on the Minneapolis school board, and if she's obsessed with identity politics, a child psychologist, if she trained Walz and is now running for senator on the basis of Orange Man bad, ICE bad, rich people bad, well, gee, I think we can all see where this is going. And by where it's going, I mean nowhere. This is more of the exact same crap the left has been peddling since before most of us were born, but none of that matters, because she could be the Senate's very first Native American woman. This is so important that the Times has 2 separate articles with this mentioned directly under the title. The Guardian mentioned her heritage too, but I suppose they aren't as much edgelords as the other outlets considering they waited until paragraph 4 before they mentioned it, instead heading their article with her using anti-ICE outrage as her campaign's fuel source. Yeah, well, she's a Democrat in Minnesota. It's like saying Mad Max uses gasoline to fuel his car, though they may as well say it runs on hopes and dreams because after the cleansing of X, the scouring of TikTok, the embarrassing revelations of fraud, perhaps most chiefly being the Southern Poverty Law Center, and even, and I don't compliment YouTube very often, the elevated tolerance for harsh words on here, all spearheaded by Trump, a man who's elected specifically because the world was tired of insistence. And after all that, hopes and dreams are about all they have left. That and empty pockets hiding empty promises of economic and medical salvation. But to be fair, literally all politicians say that. Her campaigns have her demanding that Big Pharma be held accountable and other such nonsense, things that anyone with a brain knows that will never happen. Vacuous oaths to the lowest bidder. Anyone and everyone says such drivel. It would not so much as sway a single hair on Asmongold's brow. Her entire campaign is nothing but Republicans evil, Democrats good, and all the baggage tied to that. What matters is the in-between, and that's where Democrats will always lose. For me, about the only thing I seem to agree with her on is that Chuck Schumer is a turd, but what she said about him was that she wants bigger and bolder changes, and considering that her party wants me dead, I get the feeling the reason she wants old Cucky Boy gone isn't because of his immigration obsession or his flip-flopping when the heat gets turned up. No, I get the feeling that someone who's openly running on an anti-establishment narrative whilst trying to become the establishment, someone who's dedicated part of their life to controlling children through psychology and training them to be liberal politicians, I get the feeling she has other things in mind, darker things, but she's a female with a connection to minorities oppressed by whites. so she'll win. Tough luck for Angie Craig, who had to concede to Peggy, as she couldn't tout being the first female Native American in the Senate. I guess being a lesbian and anti-Trump isn't enough to get you votes these days, huh, Annie? I'm sure your background as a healthcare executive and your degree in journalism would have been far more useful as a senator than child psychology and Native American studies, but oh well, them's the breaks. Flanagan will probably win on identity privilege backed by her papier-mâché personality of reappropriating whatever the current culturally relevant thing is, like when she wore a hijab despite apparently being Catholic, or how she addressed the gap between the importance of white people's achievements and others as if it was something that needed to be fixed by mothering, which will not fix people on welfare who cannot speak English in America and will only waste yet more resources on them. And after she's done setting up some sort of preferential treatment program for every Somalian, Muslim, and Native in Minnesota, she will probably continue with Governor Walz's good work of encouraging kind-hearted white Americans to sacrifice themselves for their so-called neighbors by impeding the federal government of their own country. Lovely stuff. Well, that's all I had to whine about, for now anyway. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, please do the YouTube things.